Good morning, class. Today, we're going to explore another interesting phrasal verb, breakaway. Like the previous ones, breakaway has multiple meanings, depending on the context. Let's dive in. Firstly, breakaway can mean to separate or detach from a group, organization, or relationship. It suggests breaking free from something that once had a strong connection. For example, the athletes decided.
Did you hear the news? Some members of the club are planning to break away and create their own group.
Really? What prompted them to do that?
They feel that the current club's management isn't addressing their needs and concerns.
It takes courage to break away and start something new, but sometimes it's necessary for positive change.
In this conversation, Eric informs Steve about members of a club planning to break away and form a new group. Eric explains that they are dissatisfied with the current club's management, which led them to take the step of separating and creating a new entity. Can anyone provide another example of breakaway in a similar context?
Some employees decided to break away from the labor union to form their own association.
Excellent example, Anna. You've got it. Now, let's move on to the second use of breakaway. Breakaway can also mean to escape from a situation, especially one that feels limiting, oppressive, or restrictive. It implies freeing oneself from constraints. For example, the adventurous travelers decided to break away from the typical tourist destinations and explore remote areas. Let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of breakaway in the context of exploring new places.
I'm tired of the usual routine. I need a change of scenery.
Why not break away from the familiar and plan a backpacking trip to less explored regions?
That's a fantastic idea. I've always wanted to break away from the touristy spots and experience authentic cultures.
It will be a refreshing experience, away from the hustle and bustle of crowded tourist destinations.
In this conversation, Arya expresses their desire for a change of scenery. David suggests breaking away from the typical tourist destinations and embarking on a backpacking trip to less explored regions. The conversation highlights the idea of escaping the familiar to seek new and authentic experiences. Can anyone share another example of breakaway in a similar context?
The artist decided to break away from traditional techniques and experiment with avant-garde styles.
Well done, Kevin. You're catching on quickly. Now, let's explore the third use. Breakaway can also mean to sever emotional ties or end a relationship, especially a romantic one. It suggests moving on and starting anew. For example, after years of struggling, they finally decided to break away and end their toxic relationship. Let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of breakaway in the context of ending a relationship.
I heard you and Mark broke up. Are you okay?
It's been tough, but it was the right decision for both of us. We needed to break away and find our individual paths.
Ending a long-term relationship is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary for personal growth.
You're right. We both realized that staying together was holding us back from pursuing our own dreams and aspirations.
In this conversation, Ashley shows concern for Cora, who recently went through a breakup with Mark. Cora explains that the decision to break away was difficult but essential for their personal growth and individual journeys. Can anyone share another example of breakaway in a similar context?
The band's lead singer decided to break away to pursue a solo career.
Excellent choice, Amber. You're doing a fantastic job. Now, let's discuss the fourth use of breakaway. Breakaway can also mean to detach physically or forcibly from something. It suggests breaking free from a physical restraint or obstacle. For example, she managed to break away from her attacker and run for help. Let's see an example of a short daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of breakaway in the context of escaping physical danger.
I heard Jenny was in a dangerous situation yesterday.
What happened?
Yes, she was walking alone at night when someone tried to grab her bag, but she managed to break away and run to a nearby store for help.
That must have been terrifying. I'm glad she's safe.
In this conversation, Martin inquires about Jenny's safety after a dangerous encounter. Jane explains that Jenny was able to break away from the attacker and seek help. The conversation showcases how the phrase break away is used to describe a physical escape from danger. Can you think of another example of break away in a similar context?
The hiker had to break away from the group to find a shortcut back to the campsite.
Well done, Justin. You've grasped the concept perfectly. That concludes our lesson on the phrasal verb break away in English. I hope you now have a better understanding of its various meanings and how to use it in different contexts. Remember to practice using break away in your conversations and written work. Keep up the great work, and see you in our next class.